change in life at about the same time. So there's some difference there and stuff. So anyway, yes, if you do have questions, anything like that, I do want to encourage you. There'll be about 10 to 15 minutes right at the end to ask questions and get some ideas about his reasoning behind this. Hopefully I'll cover some of that. But if there's something that you just really, really want. And then also, I would encourage you all, he's going to be at Saddle and Swoon this afternoon signing books, to stop by there and do that at 2 o'clock, I believe. Definitely, he's an amazing young man, gone through quite a bit. We'll talk about some of that, and I hope you all enjoy it. So, you ready? Cool. Let's do this.
Today we have the privilege of welcoming a hometown author whose story is as powerful as the one he has written. Jeremy Mills, author of Lost in Goodland, brings not only his creative work, but also a deeply personal journey shaped by resilience and reflection. Jeremy's story includes moments of profound childhood tragedy, experiences that have helped shape him, and ultimately his storytelling. Through Lost in Goodland, he channels those experiences into a book that is both meaningful and compelling. It's so special to welcome Jeremy back to the library. He used to spend a lot of time here. Who found strength in storytelling and the ways our shared experiences can inspire and support one another. Today, Jeremy will be sharing more about his book, his journey, and the inspiration behind his writing. Please join me in giving a warm, good welcome to Jeremy Mills.
Yes, good morning. Welcome to the Jeremy Mills podcast. Today we're talking to Jeremy Mills himself and learning a little bit more about his book, Lost in Goodland. And we're going to talk to him a little bit about some of the process, some of the writing styles and things that he developed, and where this journey has taken him over the last almost decade, from feeling that it needed to be done until actually getting to the point of publishing. My name is Jeff First, and I was a teacher here for Goodland High School for over 18 years. And I was actually here the very first year when Jeremy was a freshman in high school. And he and I kind of started our journey a little bit at the same time. He was changing from a boy to a young man and realizing that things were going on. You read that in his book. He knew that there were things going on. And as an art teacher, for me, I got to see a lot of his time as he was developing like these new emotions and feelings. He talks a lot about making a bond with a couple of my other favorite students. Jeremy ran around all the time with Kelly and also with Chris. He talks about those in his book as well, and they were the three amigos as they discussed, and just finding out who they were. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Jeremy up now. Jeremy, if you want to go ahead and come up, and let's kind of get into a little bit about Lost in Goodland and what it means to you.
Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Jeremy Mills from the Hot Corner. I'll be graduating Saturday, May 21st, 2011 from Goodland High School. I invite all of you to attend and enjoy seeing the accomplishment of all the 2011 seniors. I also invite you to attend the reception at the Elks Lodge in Goodland following graduation. I've enjoyed this year co-hosting the Hot Corner on 102.5 KKCI, calling games on 97.9 KWGB, 102.5 KKCI, and also 100.3 KRDQ. I thank Jay, Sasha, and Curtis for accepting me into their life and workplace. I thank all of you for listening and your support. This next year will be an adventure, but I'm confident that I will make a difference in life. Once again, thank you and congratulations to the class of 2000. Here to introduce the first episode of the T3 podcast on the Mills Family Channel.
When I left Desert Storm, I came to a greater appreciation, some understandings. One, most people in this world are just trying to make a living and take care of their family, just like me.
Well, if you have listened to the Jeremy Mills podcast before, you know that I spoke this into existence a couple weeks ago. I said we're going to get Jamal Crawford on the podcast, and today is that day. Jamal, welcome.
Thank you. I heard it. I listened to it. I actually listened to the edition with Rashad, but you have a lot of good stuff, and I started scrolling down and listening to more and more, and now we're here. Like, it's really, really cool.
And Jeremy, I'm proud of you, to be honest with you. Is like, knowing your journey. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, dang, Jeremy's literally interviewed so many people.
Right.
Like, and it's so cool for you to have this platform. You know what I mean? Like, and just think about it, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it wasn't like that. So for you to have this platform and use it for good and continue to grow, and you're going to interview so many more people. Like, that's so dope for me to sit back and watch that and watch your interviews. I watch interviews you do with people. I'm like, dang, like Jeremy really is killing it. And that's so, like, that's a humbling thing. It's so cool, and I'm proud of you.
I had a front seat view of him, you know, coming in on a 45-degree angle and then pulling his aircraft up, and basically watched, you know, our propeller saw his plane in half.
I have a possible solution for you. And she had like a academic paper she'd written on how to fix me. She said, if you go through this, I'll marry you. I'm still madly in love with you.
He keeps on calling me and leave me one of those harassing voicemails.
So, yes, today we have with us Jeremy Mills, author of Lost in Goodland. Looking back a little bit of his history, things he's gone through and stuff like that. I actually moved to Goodland the same time that you started your freshman year. I have always lived in smaller communities, smaller areas, and I guess I really kind of want to ask a little bit about some of the responses and things that you've had in the book from the point of view of someone who's grown up in a small community. Because initially, when I got through the first couple of chapters, I felt very attacked. I felt very like, oh man, it's just terrible to be in a small town. And to give some idea for your listeners, like, we're in the middle of nowhere. And when I say we're in the middle of nowhere, so if you were living in downtown Seattle and you went straight west, it's 400 miles from Goodland to Kansas City, which means that you could go all the way to Spokane and halfway back before you got to Kansas City from Goodland. Or if you just drove straight south on I-5, you would actually get all the way to Grants Pass, Oregon, almost to California, in the same amount of time that it would take you to get to Kansas City from Goodland. So we're in the middle of, you actually flew into Denver because that's way closer than flying into Kansas City.
Right.
And so being in a small community, the more I read, the more I understood your story. And I am definitely not at that point now. I very much appreciate your representation of Goodland, but what have been some of the responses? Do you have anyone else that's like, oh man, or have there been good responses? What do you feel?
Yeah, surprisingly good. The last week before I released the book, if I could have, I would have stopped. I felt awful. I thought people weren't going to understand. They were going to take the worst parts of it, judge my mom, judge me, judge other people. But it's been anything but that. People have been so mature about it and understanding, and hopefully have learned maybe a little bit about what can go on under your nose in small towns, how good kids can be at hiding things. And yeah, I've been super happy. A couple people were sad they didn't make it in the book, but I told them, you don't want to make it in this book. This isn't the most joyful book. So maybe if there's a next one, they can then make it in there. But super appreciative and surprised. I did have to be honest. You know, there was no half measures. It was either I was going to be completely honest or not at all. Just no reason to do it. So the beginning part about Goodland, I had to express some honest feelings that I'm sure people in this room probably don't agree with. And no one has made a stink about it or not liked the book because of it. And I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. I did. Like I said, the more I read into it, the more I felt like this was just the landing ground for where you were. And to realize that it could have been anywhere. You know, it could have been in a larger community. You still have had the same situations. It was just the fact that we are in a small town. You feel like everybody knows your business, but it really doesn't work out that way all the time. And so I actually brought something for you. So the first year I was here, I started an art club, and Jeremy was one of the officers. And there's so much in this. And if you get a chance afterwards to kind of look at it, or if he'll post it, I'm sure he'll talk about it. But I have the 5 officers sitting on stairs in the old building. And Jeremy, with his nails painted, his long hair, his attitude, even the look on his face of this scrunched nose, he was at that time the reporter, always interested in sharing information. Go figure. But just quick-witted and right in there with me. And I have so many memories of your freshman year of us talking and sharing. And this hung in my room for probably 13 years, and I took it down recently. And I wanted to give this to you. So, but I just want you to see that I can look across that whole photograph, and I've had so many students come back to me now. There's a state trooper and another family member who lives here in town who has children, and like almost every kid in this picture has come back to me and talked to me since, or I have some of their students in class. And every one of them had a story that I didn't know. I didn't realize as a teacher at first what there was going on at home. I was just trying to be someone there at the door. And I remember us having conversations. Like I was in the process of trying to build the media. You said that you took my graphic design class later once I got it up and going. And I just, when I talk to you, this is how I still remember you. And I think that's
still how I feel too. Trust me.
But I bring this picture out, one, because I want to share it with you. And two, as I was reading through the book, you have such amazing depiction of all the senses. You talk about sitting on the couch when your mom brings you in to tell you before you're getting ready to leave. It's the same couch that a year ago this happened, and the smells that are in it. And you have this very childlike point of view through the entire book. There's so many times that you could have explained and expanded upon more as an adult kind of would have happened, but what kind of led you into the staying in that childish point of view?
Yeah, it's those people don't get a voice often. So I think it was really important to stay in that and give that kid a voice and not editorialize things, as I've seen in like some other similar memoirs. And you never forget. There's certain things you never forget. There's a lot of details I don't remember, But there's certain things I'll never forget, and senses seem to be things that bring it back. My process for writing the book was waking up before my day job at 5 a.m. every morning and just putting my heart down. The first draft was just a mess of nothing, just a lot of feelings. I kind of had to remind myself what happened. And I would go through different processes, and one of the most important ones was just sitting in those feelings that I couldn't get rid of anyway, and figuring out what I could take from them and how I could describe them and make people feel what I felt, which I could never even explain in words before. So I'm really proud about that, about how that turned out, and when I read it back, how it makes me feel too.
It's very unique style. I really enjoyed it a lot as I read through it, and that was a big thing that stood out to me. You had so many options and ways to tell it, and it was just, it's beautiful the way that you like, oh, this happened here and that happened here, and you just kind of weave this tapestry as you read through the book, and that was an excellently well done point of view. One of the other things too that I think really big for me is a proliferating like undertone all the way across is this strife, and I'm sure you probably had to relive this over and over again. Of you share how much you love your mother, but how many times, even now looking back, and even in that moment, you comment several times about how you knew what she was doing was wrong, but you still were trying to forgive her and love her. Do you feel like that, like was that really hard to relive? And
yeah, super hard, especially the audiobook. That, like, I really had a hard time finishing. And that's why it took so long to come out, is because, yes, I've had to relive it in my head a lot, and I've wrote about it. But to go back right at the end and read it was really hard. Because it's been a process. It's been like a 3-year process of living this memory intentionally every day. In the end, it's definitely helped me not think about it all the time. And other times, I've been able to disconnect from it a little bit. But it was really hard. And I couldn't have understood what I understand now then, because I wasn't an adult. I didn't have the perspective of what an 8-year-old is, what an 8-year-old can do, what situations an 8-year-old should be in. So when I became an adult and I had, maybe 5 years late, my brain developed, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm an adult now. Things became very clear in uncomfortable ways. So,
do you feel like you have a deeper understanding of what love is because of that? Does it jade your love feelings a little bit, or?
I don't know if I have a better understanding of it, but maybe I've lived close to it. I think everyone loves their mother and has a closeness to them. It's the first place that I think I wrote is the first place you belong, And it was just, I think, becoming an adult and understanding that 2 things can be true. Yes, my mom can love me more than anything, and she can also put me in bad situations. Those aren't, they're not mutually exclusive. So, and that's a hard thing for a kid to understand. Almost impossible.
One of the things yesterday when I was really thinking about this, that you talk about the hunger and how there was not always time, or not always money for food, but always money for the other vices that were there, and I'm sure that now you're much more aware of that. It's like, well, was I not that important? Was I not as
right?
I just really feel like those were big pieces in there that.
Yeah, it's hard to come to terms with, for your own mother. But that shows what addiction is and how serious it is and how it should not be taken lightly or judged for it. It's people struggling. There is fault of their own, but who doesn't have fault in their life? So they deserve a little bit of grace so they don't feel so ashamed and scared to get help. I'm scared to be honest about what they are going through.
Let's jump a little bit farther forward. kind of almost to the point of what caused you to write this book. And I've got some ideas, but I really want to make sure that I'm thinking the same thing. So that you were thinking. I feel like you escaped physically. You left Goodland as a senior. You moved out to Seattle to be with your brothers. Eventually, your dad was able to be part of that. But you talk about, like, did you really feel like you had gotten out? Did you feel like that you'd escaped both physically and mentally? Or
For a while I did, because I was with my brothers, which meant so much to me. And we just spent time together, mobbing around the city, having fun. But when I noticed things weren't getting better was when I started to have success with my podcast. And I interviewed the guy you saw, Jamal Crawford, who's like the saint of Seattle. He puts so much back into the community, and the NBA players that are from Seattle are almost a direct result of him. And so I had great success, and I write about when I wrote on the Burt Gilman and screamed out of joy for the first time. And even that, the next day, that didn't solve my problems. That didn't solve the mental health issues I was going through. And nothing could, not money, not anything, except for therapy and just truly tackling it in an honest way, not using art to kind of touch on it a little bit, which I was finding. I was writing stories that would incorporate some of the stories that were in the book, but in fictional ways and breaking it up. And I knew that it would always influence any art that I did if I didn't take the time to just do this. And did I think I would finish it when I started? Probably not. But it meant a lot to me to process this for myself. And then it just kept building to.
So that brings up kind of an interesting idea here. What I just heard you say is you almost felt like you were doing the same thing that your mother did, and that you would get like a really good day and have a really good high, and then you'd fall right back down the next day. Yeah. and be like, so did you find any other coping mechanisms? Can you, and if you don't feel comfortable with this, are there anything that you can look back now since you've gone through this time that maybe are things that you would do, like with people around you, or what?
A lot of it was just burying myself in work. All that stuff that you watched that I did for those 10 years, I was keeping myself busy for a reason. You know, it's much easier to be busy and not thinking about those things than sitting idle and letting what's in your subconscious come out. So now that I'm transitioning out of that, that's going to be a challenge for me to just not make myself busy again and relax a little bit. But yeah, it was avoidance. It's all the same avoidance, whether you're burying yourself in work or burying yourself in drugs. You're still not processing what you need to process. So, hey, it's just me jumping in after the fact because there's a question I wanted to give a better answer to. It's a great question by Mr. First. Maybe I didn't understand totally in the moment. I just politicianed my way through it and answered the question I wanted to answer. But listening back, I'm thinking, okay, I get what he was asking. My coping mechanism growing up that didn't get enough love in the book was wrestling, and specifically my wrestling toys, or my wrestling guys, as I called them at the time. If you knew me, you saw me with them. I played with them all the time, often in my own world. Didn't need electricity or TV or anything. I had a pillow on my lap sometimes, but I could even do without that. I just had this memory of flying for the first time and letting one of my wrestling guys look out the window. As an adult, wrestling came back in my life around the time I was putting in the hardest work in the aftermath of everything that had happened. She'll never admit it, but she started to like it too and became our equivalent to watching sports together. We sit and watch the monthly pay-per-views and get takeout and just relax together. And figuring out how to relax and recharge was so important to me, and not just working all the time to avoid my feelings. All right, back to the podcast.
Sorry to hit you with that, but
no, please do.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you're now married. Your wife Jasmine, you have a close relationship with her. I know that like that probably took some time to really get used to as well.
Yeah. And that's where for me at least, a lot of my issues came out, were in those, like handling conflict, even just communication styles. I didn't have the best example growing up of when there was a disagreement, how that went. So that was a lot to learn. And I'm glad that I had a person that was patient enough to see that through with me and not leave, I wouldn't have blamed her at some point. So
no, I'm sure, every relationship has those strifes. And if you don't know exactly how to handle it, it's.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of, is that relationship and the way we built, because she didn't have a great example either. Her mother wasn't in her life. Her dad wasn't in her life. So she grew up in Virginia, and her grandma took her all the way to Seattle to get far away from all of what was going on. And I respect that so much. She just didn't care what the family thought and said, I'm getting this child out of here. And so for us to be able to have the relationship we do, communicate the way we do, help each other the way we do, makes me super proud.
So I want one exclusive behind the scenes thing here. You've talked about you were reluctant a little bit to write, someone approached you about it, you're like, and then you talked a little bit about your writing process, getting up, like flooding yourself with emotions in the morning. That you've definitely said that, if you had the choice, there was the last couple of weeks, you didn't want to release it at all. Is there one thing that you kind of wish you had left in when it all was said and done? Because I'm sure there was things that hit the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
And there was stuff that like now that it's all said and done, the book is out. One thing that was like right there on the line.
Yeah. And so many things had to be cut. So many people had to be cut. There wasn't a lot of room for the fun things in between that happened. To make a good story and to make a cohesive story, I had to cut a lot of people out, and that hurts the most. Because there's a lot of great people that I spent time around, a lot of great family that I spent time with. But ultimately it was, what was the story? And does it fit in the story? And does it take away and distract? And I had to learn to write when I wrote this book. I started out not knowing what I was doing, and through the process of, learned. I did a whole draft and didn't explain what anyone looked like. I was just like, yeah, Jonathan, right? Of course, everybody knows Jonathan. But I was like, all right, let me figure this out. So yeah, just the people. And I didn't realize how far it would go. I never thought I'd be here today sitting in this room, or that anyone would care or understand. So if I could have put people in there that did great things for me, I would have.
Yeah, I noticed there wasn't an art teacher in your school.
Yeah, that was, the last thing I cut.
I was on that last. Okay, I feel a little bit better about that.
All right, jumping in for one more additional answer. One thing I couldn't get straight answers on, but came out on accident when I was 14 by one of my aunts at Thanksgiving, was that I may have been a twin, and my sister, as she referred to her as, died either before or during birth. With how everything turned out, I honestly couldn't imagine having someone as close as a twin. I'm so close with my brothers, but at a microscopic level, I think they'll always be just a little bit closer with each other because they had years together before I even existed. And they had a lot of years together growing up in Issaquah where I wasn't around. Same with Kelly and Chris, my best friends. They went to college together, and I've been gone a really long time. So for me, who didn't always have that one person around, the thought of having a twin is super weird. Again, I couldn't confirm this detail explicitly with anyone in my family. It was just a very touchy subject, but one I thought was interesting to share considering everything that had happened. All right, back to the show.
Well, it really is. It's a wonderful book. I got a copy of it. I read it within, 72 hours. I had the whole book down, and just consumed so much. This good history about Goodland and the founding.
I do want to give a shout out to Lloyd Holbrook and Jennifer House for that history. They really helped me out there. So thank you to both of them.
It's just well done. Good emotional context. great visual senses. It's an excellent book. I highly recommend it. If you have not read it, it is really an excellent book to read.
All right, a quick break to tell you about Goodland Furniture and Sleep Center. When you hear the name Goodland Furniture and Sleep Center, you think furniture, but they have so much more, like the most comfortable mattresses on the market, name brand appliances, and appliance repair to keep what you own running longer. Need to update your floors? They have Mohawk flooring with styles for every room and every budget. From your living room sofa to your newest washer to the floors under your feet. If it's in your home, Goodland Furniture and Sleep Center probably sells it or fixes it. Stop in to Goodland Furniture and Sleep Center today. This episode is also brought to you by Goodland Trucking. When your load matters, trust the people who know the area. Goodland Trucking out of Goodland, Kansas, hauling grain, farm supplies, and heavy equipment across the country, has racked up 5 years of reliable interstate service. Local roots, nationwide reach, trust Goodland Trucking today. This episode is also brought to you by All About You Salon and Spa. When you need a little time that's just for you, All About You Salon and Spa has been taking care of Goodland since 2014. Sheila, Holly, and Tatum run a family-owned shop offering hair, nails, waxing, and tanning. And they're the best in town. Stop in and see them at 921 Main Street in Goodland, Kansas. While you're there, stop in for some real Mexican food. El Agave, also on Main Street. I stopped in when I was there. I had the asada tacos, and I'm still thinking about them. Whether it's tacos, fajitas, or just chips and a margarita, it's the kind of place that hits the spot every time. Find them at 1016 on Main.
I guess at this point in time, if there are any questions that anyone from the crowd would like to ask Jeremy, it's about that time.
Jeremy, how did you and your brothers, did you go to therapy together to get your relationship back together?
Not at first. At first, it was just spending time together, relearning who each other was. I started going to therapy first, and it was even at a time in Seattle, a very progressive city, where when I would tell people, they would just kind of be like, oh yeah, cool, don't want to talk about that, don't want to talk about your emotions. But eventually our relationship grew, and Josh started going to therapy. Jonathan has done therapy as well, and the change in both of them, especially Jonathan and his level of empathy that he has and understanding of people, is great to see, because he's always known as just the smart one, analytical, book smart, but they read a very early draft of the book, and it was one of the most important days in our relationship, just because we got to see each other for who we were and not who you present yourself to be day to day. Got to be very honest, and if that was the only thing to come out of the book, it would have been enough. So,
are there any other questions? Does anyone have something? Yes.
Well, I'm older than you, and your memories kind of play tricks on you. And I may remember something different than my brother or whatever. But so when you were writing it, did you second guess any of your memories?
A little bit, yeah. And that's why Jonathan was the one who edited it, and he helped me, come to the things where he was there and he remembered different. He helped me come to a little middle ground of what was, especially those early chapters, Christmas and the incident with him. I was really young, and it was super traumatic. So to remember exactly what happened was tough. And he corrected me a little bit on one. So I was happy for that.
I always think of Goodland as being a pretty healthy community. And when we send our kids away to college, I just feel like they're head and shoulders above the ones that come from urban areas. And they're just more responsible, and that's my point of view looking at our kids and the people that they relate with. But after reading your story, we got some holes to fill. What's your best suggestion as to providing a safety net for kids that might be in similar situations here?
Yeah,
we have a lot of them.
It is, and there's people who've been through much worse than me and are probably still going through much worse. And it's something I've thought about a lot. I don't think, for me, you couldn't have helped me at the time. My mom needed help long before I did. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of people. So like I mentioned earlier, not judging people for their misgivings, their addictions, their issues, giving them some grace and some understanding, giving them a community to rely on, a shoulder to cry on. And for kids, it's doing what Mr. First did with me, building a relationship just as a person, making them comfortable. Maybe we won't say anything, but maybe we will. And that maybe is worth it to build that relationship with a kid. And that doesn't mean just teaching, that means everything else, the conversations in between. But overall, I do think helping the adult in the situation, giving them resources for mental health, addiction, and having that be a part of what's talked about and not what's pushed to the corner and hidden.
I wanted to jump in on that. There's a part in your book, you and a young man are walking down the street and you're just spilling your guts to him. And he says, well, that's why every day I treat somebody, how does that go?
Yeah, I treat somebody like they're having the worst day of their life.
Treat somebody like they're having the worst day in your life. And I will tell you, during the 4 years that he was here, I can think of 5 different examples of students that all had something as big, maybe not the exact same thing. And since then, it is that understanding that just because we're a small community, we have all the same problems that large communities have. And we're all so good at masking, and it's just being there that moment when someone breaks down. I've had numerous kids who I caught just at the moment that they just really need an adult. And I think that's a big part of it, to really just to always realize that just because it looks great and shiny on the outside doesn't mean that it's not on the inside. There's something going on. And another big one is, like, I read this book and I had some trauma when I was a kid, and it wasn't the same, but just realizing that relatively what your trauma is the biggest thing you've ever gone through. And I think that's part of it, that
it's all you know, whether it, was this big or that big or that big, that's all you know. And that's what you had to go through. And I hope people realize that, because I know there's a lot of people who've been through really hard times. And I imagine the generation before me went through some really hard times too. So hopefully that's had brought some conversations and broken the ice a little bit.
I think it's interesting to have Mr. First here. My daughter teaches music in Russell, and she has kids kind of the same way. And it points out the importance of arts in the schools, because it provides a safe place for kids that don't belong in other parts of the school. And you kind of have to become half therapist and half teacher at some point.
Yeah, especially in an art class, my guard was down when I was in your class. I could just be myself, which I couldn't be in a lot of places. So, and you encouraged that, and you thought it was cool, and the art that I did come up with, you were so encouraging about. And like, super funny story, I don't know if you'll remember. It was in graphic art class, and I don't remember if I wasn't doing good or something, or not turning in a paper, and you were getting on me and saying something about how I need to learn to apply myself, which you were 100% right. My whole problem in school is I didn't know how to apply myself. I thought if I didn't know it already, I was like, all right, I'm far behind, forget it. I should know this already. But I was like, I'll learn to apply myself after school. And then you were like, no, that's not how you're supposed to do that. And I don't think that is, but it worked out for me, luckily. So.
All right, are there any other questions?
Well, I just want to make a point. You missed first. So I think you missed the point. We are the center of the world. We're not in the middle of nowhere. We are the center of the world. We're all I just have to make sure you understand that. And I'll educate you more on that. But Jeremy, who was your English teacher? Or who you have a beautiful writing style. Who was your teacher?
Mrs. Hall.
Best teachers ever.
Yeah, she was great.
Yes, she is.
Yes. Introduced me to one of my favorite books, Night by Elie Wiesel, and that was super impactful on my life.
So did you do the Walden project, or was that the end of the year project of Walden?
I don't remember. I wasn't. Sometimes I didn't read all the books. Chris reminded me of that, so I apologize, Mrs. Hall.
Well, kudos, Mrs. Hall, because I mean, obviously it's your writing, but somebody encouraged you to do that. And so, hats off to Mrs. Hall, because she did a beautiful job. You've done a beautiful job.
Thank you. Coach Wisnat? You good? Awesome. Sweet. Okay, well, if that is everything, I do have one more.
I actually have one final question. Yeah,
okay.
I was saving this one. So now that everything has turned out, would you want 14-year-old Jeremy Mills to read this book?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if he would have understood, but maybe I'm underestimating kids like we've all done.
Do you think like on the one hand it's going to give him hope that things are going to work out?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he knows that there's more to come that's going to get tougher.
Yeah. I think I would, just so they know they're not alone in what they went through and that they're not weird because of it. Well, maybe they are, but that's okay.
Weird is okay.
Weird has brought me here today. So yes, I would, just to know that we're not alone in going through what we are and that there's hope that you make it out and do something better. So.
Yeah. So what's your next step, Jeremy?
Take a big break. My wife is encouraging me to not start any new projects for the summertime, just because I have been holed up in my room for a long time. But I want to make some sort of impact, and I just don't know what yet, with the Goodland community. I just know there's an opportunity with people knowing my book that I can help some kids or some parents prevent this in the future. So if anyone has any ideas, please find me, and I'm all ears. So, yeah. All right. A quick video to end. I promise it's not as long as the first one, but it's important to me to let you hear from someone else.
With so many precious times my dad and I have shared, it is hard to pick only a few. He's my hero, the man I've shared sad times with, the man I've shared fun times with, the man who was always there for me for whatever I wanted or needed. He taught me how to respect and how to use common sense. His love for me was endless. I know, because I've always felt this love no matter what stage in my life I was at. I remember at a very young age, I'd get on his lap and he'd say, "How's my ladybug?" That always felt so good. Even as an adult, we always kissed and hugged to say hello or see you later. My friends I brought home always told me I had the best parents in the world. One time, my cousin Terry spent the night and somehow, Dad crawled out the bedroom window, put a blanket over his head and snuck around to the big picture window and scared us silly. With only one arm, we wondered all night how he got through the bedroom window. What a guy. Just a year or two ago, Dad and I was installing a toggle switch for my garage door. I was standing on the car and he was telling me what to do. He said, "Touch those two wires on something." And of course I did because I trusted him. As soon as I did, the garage door started working and it scared me so bad I threw the screwdriver and he ducked and started laughing so hard. We laughed for 10 more minutes, and even a few more days after that. Of course, Dad knew all the time what was going to happen when the wires touched. What a guy. These last 6 years I have lived in Goodland, Dad had done most everything for me. Fixed broken things in the house, mowed my lawn, or whatever needed to be done. He has been the best grandpa to my 3 boys. His relationship with them was so special it still amazes me. No one will ever fill his shoes. I love you, Dad, with all my heart.
Thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Hoop fans all across community. Check in, never know who you'll see. Subscribe and like, you know the deal. Real life on Mike Jeremy Mills. Hoop fans all across community. Check in, never know who you'll see. Subscribe and like, you know the deal. Real life on Mike Jeremy Mills.